Everyone reading this list knows what a hashtag is. They are everywhere on the internet, and it's almost impossible to find social media websites and applications where they're not used. However, there's a lot of misconception out there about hashtags and the once not so common hash symbol, which used to be exclusive to business people, and it's time we resolved them once and for all. So, fasten your seatbelt and let's get into the list. We're about to surprise you. Number 10. The difference between hash and hashtag. There's a distinction between the hash and the hashtag, and it's significant that we explain this prior to going profoundly into this fascinating, instructing and uncovering list. The image, hash, is a hash while the image in its going with word is a hashtag. That is, hash list versus a hashtag while hash alone isn't. However, numerous individuals call the hash image a hashtag. Little wonder we as a whole misspeak hash list versus hashtag list verse rather than hash list verse. This doesn't mean you should call it hash list verse, however. People may think you're an alien, and we will tell you why in the final entry. Number 9. Twitter did not invent the hashtag. The hashtag first showed up on Twitter. Little miracle, numerous individuals think Twitter imagined it. Twitter didn't develop the hashtag. Actually, it was against the creation and utilization of hashtags, which its chiefs made look like geeky. Twitter client Chris Messina created the hashtag in August 2007. Twitter was new at that point, and Chris needed to make tweets more accessible. He proposed we utilize the hash image, which he called pound, before watchwords to make tweets more coordinated and accessible. Chris agreed to the image since it was broadly utilized on the Internet Relay Chat, IRC, which he and his companions used to talk at that point. He promptly began utilizing the then unclickable hashtag in his tweets, and before long drafted a 2,000-word proposition, which he pitched to one of Twitter's prime supporters, Biz Stone, at Twitter's Central Command. Stone scarcely tuned into the proposition since he was engrossed with fathoming a tech issue that had popped up. Toward the end, he excused the thought as too geeky to actually get on and added that Twitter would compose a calculation to sort points in the future. Hashtags just got on during the October 2007 San Diego rapidly spreading fire when Chris prompted clients tweeting about the out-of-control fire to utilize them. Clients did, inciting Twitter to refresh its code to make hashtags interactive. The rest, as it's been said, is history. Number 8. Its real name is neither hash nor hashtag. In the past section, we referenced that Chris alluded to the hash image as pound in his tweet. That was not an error. The expression hashtag was non-existent at the time he made that tweet. Hash itself is a generally new word, and it's only one of the numerous names of the pound sign. Numerous individuals, especially Americans, call the hash image pound since it was shaped from pound, the abbreviation of pound and the unit of weight regular in the United States. Pound is the abbreviated type of libra ponto, the Latin word for pound by weight. Pound gradually transformed into hash when copyists began adding a stroke to the upper piece of pound hundreds of years back. The pound sign is called hash in view of its nearby similarity to the stripes on military regalia, which are additionally called hash. In any case, its official name is Octothorpe, especially when it shows up on phones or the web. Chime Laboratories scientists shaped the name when they added the hash catch to phones. They called it Tecto as a result of its 8 finishes. The birthplace of the Thorpe is hazy, however etymologists, individuals who study the starting point of words, concur it was either named after the U.S. competitor, Jim Thorpe, or after the Old Norse word for homestead or field. Number 7. It was added to telephones for no reason. In 1963, phone makers created the touchtone framework to take care of the dialing issues normal with early phones. Under this new framework, a particular tone was doled out to the keypads on each line and segment on phones. This implied each number made a sound comprising of 2 unmistakable tones, one from its line and the other from its section. The sounds may seem pointless and irritating to us, yet that is the manner by which the framework distinguishes the numbers we're squeezing. This implies a phone with 12 catches orchestrated into standard 3 lines and 4 sections. 3 times 4 can make 12 sounds. Nonetheless, early phones had 10 catches. Just 0 involved the last line, leaving the 2 additional areas and tones to one side and right unused. Engineers at AT&T, which owned Bell Laboratories at the time, added the unhash buttons to utilize those spaces. The buttons served no purpose and the engineers hoped someone would find some use for them in the future. The buttons were later utilized to access other phone functions, a purpose they still serve today. Number 6. There are 2 types of hash. The International Telecommunications Union, ITU, is the United Nations agency responsible for setting common standards for information and communication services and technologies. In 1988, it released a manual, advising telephone makers to arrange their numbers and symbols in one of 3 ways. The first is the common 3 times 4 arrangement, which has 123 at the top, followed by 456, 789 and finally 0 hash. The other 2 are the not-so-common 2 times 6 and 6 times 2 arrangements. However, the ITU also allowed phone manufacturers use the now redundant 3 times 3, plus 1, 5 times 2 or 2 times 5 arrangements, if they decided to skip the unhash buttons. Talking about the hash button, the ITU recognizes 2 hash buttons. The first is the European version, which stands upright at 90 degrees, and a slightly slanted American version that leans to the right at 80 degrees. Today, the 90 degrees version appears to have gone extinct, leaving the 80 degrees version as the dominant symbol. We should add that the ITU called the hash symbol a square. Number 5. Why C# is called C# and not C#. Numerous individuals including novice developers frequently call the C# programming language C# or C# rather than its genuine name, C#. That is confounding. For what reason do we call it C# despite the fact that it's spelled with a hash or pound, contingent upon your inclination? Anders Hejlsberg, the one who drove the group that built up the language, said they initially called it COOL, which means C like object-oriented language. Be that as it may, they surrendered the name since it was hard to reserve. The group went to the C++ programming language for motivation for another name. They added 2 or more signs to frame C++ prior to consolidating every one of the 4 or more signs to mirror the sharp sign, utilized in music. Technically, C# is composed as C. Furthermore, not C#. Number 4. Why Chris never patented it. Chris would have been a millionaire or even billionaire if he had patented the hashtag, but he did not. In an answer posted on Quora, Chris said he did not patent the hashtag for 2 reasons. The first was that a patent would have granted him a monopoly, which would have delayed or even stalled the mass adoption of hashtags. This, he said, was counterproductive and against the rationale behind the creation of the hashtag. He created the hashtag because he wants people to use it. Lots of people, that is. Chris added that hashtags are a product of the internet and should not belong to a person. He has no interest making money off them, and the satisfaction of seeing people use them is enough compensation for him. So readers, use more hashtags. Make Chris Messina happy. Number 3. How pound became hash. We already explained that the hash symbol originated from pound, the acronym of the Latin Liber Ponto, but we'll go a bit more in-depth in this entry. The Romans shortened Liber Ponto to pound and used it as a unit of weight. It remained that way until it entered the English language, where scribes added a stroke across the top of L and B to indicate it's a shortened form of a longer word. The stroke pound slowly turned into the hash symbol as scribes paid little attention to its spelling as they wrote faster. At the same time, the word took a second meaning in English language when business people started using it in place of no. So number 1 means number 1, or number 1, number 2 means number 2, and so on. This is why the symbol is also called the number sign. It's also the reason why typewriter manufacturers retained it, alongside that, which business people used as a shortened form of at the rate of. The first typewriters were marketed to business people and it made sense to retain the symbols they frequently used. Number 2, how it got its name. In section number 2, we referenced that Chris Messina considered the hash image the pound in his now celebrated tweet. What we did not mention was that he wanted us to call hashtags channel tags or tag channels, but both names never caught on. So where did the word hashtag come from? We'll turn to Stoboid for answers. Around the same time that Chris proposed the hashtag, Stoboid remarked on his post, proposing we call the hash and it's going with word hashtags. Yes, that was no error. It should be hashtag and not hashtag. Someone someplace shut the hole and consolidated the two words. We don't have the foggiest idea who that individual is and we question if that individual realizes they shaped another word. They may have done that out of error for all we know. Number 1, why it's a controversial word. The hashtag authoritatively turned into an English word when it was added to the Oxford English Dictionary in June 2014. Prior to at that point, it was simply one more slang. The Oxford English Dictionary adds new words to the English word reference just on the off chance that they've entered boundless use. Most words start as slangs or imports from another dialect before they become official English words. Be that as it may, the Oxford English Dictionary muddled things a piece when it characterized the hashtag as a word or expression following the hash image or the image itself, particularly when it shows up on a telephone or PC. In the event that you're asking why we didn't reveal to you this toward the start of the rundown, it was to try not to mistake the image for the image and word. We utilized both hash and hashtag widely in this rundown and it would have been confounding on the off chance that we kept shifting back and forth between calling hash a hash and a hashtag. Furthermore, the Oxford English Dictionary added a proviso, particularly when it shows up on a telephone or PC. Nonetheless, on the off chance that you demand calling the independent hash a hashtag, at that point we prompt that you call something like hash list verse, a hashtagged word. That is the thing that Twitter does and it forestalls a ton of disarray.